Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Superboy, issue 7, and the third and final story, The Man Who Knew Superboy's Secret Identity. Yes, it's one of the stories about trying to prove that Clark Kent is indeed, well, Superboy instead of just Superman. Can't wait to get back to Superman. I'm probably going to accidentally call him Superboy throughout it. These stories have been, quality-wise, very erratic. There have been some good ones, there have been some bad ones, and there have been some really bad ones. And there's probably been some okay ones. Lois really got focused in the 1950s with trying to prove that Clark Kent was Superman, so we got a lot more versions of that, though I kind of enjoyed them more before they became standard Superman stories. And this is one of the first to do this in Superboy, but there is no Lois, so we have to work with another reporter, a Pete Bates, who bought a old table from auction, found a journal in it where the man who wrote the journal caught Clark turning into Superboy a few times, or using his powers a few times, so he pretty much assumed that Clark Kent correctly was Superboy. So he goes about trying to prove this. And I think the great weakness of the story is it's very low energy with how he tries to do it. I usually like it when Superboy knows what's going on beforehand and he can have fun with it. I don't feel like he's having all that much fun with it. Pretty much from the get-go, he's suspicious and then finds out about the journal, so he's just kind of letting these things happen, but fixing them beforehand. Like at one point, the guy literally jumps off a cliff for him to save him, and without realizing Clark's superpowers, Clark just uses his powerful breath to create a cushion for him to hit when he's falling down without getting hurt. If you understood Superboy's powers more, you might be able to figure out a way to trick him. It doesn't really feel like he's outsmarting him all that much as it is just a failure at trying to prove that he's Superboy. Like, he really underestimates, A, how smart he is and how powerful he is. And it's a little less of a cat and mouse game if the cat is weak and dying. And it just gets worse to the climax. See, the climax involves him explaining to Clark all the different evidence from the journal that led to the journal writer believing Clark was Superboy. So at the end, any energy, and like I said, it was a very low energy story, is completely just murdered, drowned in these final few pages where it's just like, oh yeah, I found a needle in the haystack because I had a magnet. What a lackluster explanation, especially the way it's both depicted and his explanation of it. And it's at that energy for the rest of it, which is almost no energy. So a story that was already suffering from not being particularly energetic just dies at the climax, which should be the most exciting part of the story. But Clark manages to weasel out of this all over again by just being somewhat clever, especially just having the time to deal with this. Really, it's a mistake that they didn't really give him much of an antagonist or foil here to meet with his level of ability. Like a Luthor would have been much more interesting, or I guess Humpty Dumpty is his most recurring villain, but possibly a very smart kid, which could also be Luthor from later Superboy myth. If we're going to do this story, the character has to be at least somewhat smart and catching Clark in things, that it's not just him being barely awake tricking him. Honestly, he could have tricked him and saved the entire town at the same time. That's how much he's devoting to tricking him. Okay, that is it from Superboy issue 7 and the third story, The Man Who Knew Superboy's Secret Identity. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Friday's Bat Friday, where I cover Batman story either Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And whatever happened to that other reporter character? He existed for maybe 3 issues pretty early in the Adventure Comics run, but the comic seems to have utterly forgot he existed. Okay, have a great day.